Hello and welcome back to Serie A Spotlight. We're your hosts Jake
And Matt.
You know what time it is!
I can't tell you guys enough how much you've been my internal monologue when thinking about football for the last year.
Yes! Amazing! We get to record while drinking some wine. Jake and I will have a very special soft spot for Salernitana.
we love him.
We love him. Stop zooming in on Allegri's face, bro. You're gonna make
How
me
are you
break.
exposing me?
Because you're gonna make me break, man. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Serie A Spotlight. This is episode number 184 and we are fresh back from our 2-week vacation, which apparently wasn't enough for some because after Malaysia, Jake went straight to Croatia to enjoy a bachelor's trip, which leaves this episode up to me. So I'm like, what the hell can I do all by myself in this episode? So I did invite a special guest. Some of you might know him from the work that he does for us with his weekly episodes of Tactics Imperivm. That is, of course, Gianluca Lia, who is also a sports journalist for the Times of Malta and a freelance match analyst. Expect to learn in this episode how to watch and understand football from a tactical perspective, what makes a good manager and how tactical trends shape the game, which Serie A teams and players to watch this season, and how tactics impact youth development in Italy. As always, make sure to follow us on TikTok, Twitter, YouTube and Instagram. And check out the link in our description to become a patron. It's $3.99 a month and our applications for our fantasy league are now open. So join that, become a patron and enter the chance to win a free kit of your choosing if you obviously win the league. As always, a special thanks goes to our media partners in Benevo Bid. Check out the link in our bio and get autographed items from some of your favorite players in Serie A history, including match-issued kits, and most of the proceeds go to charity. But let's get into the show. John, finally, brother, after 1 year of collaborating together, we finally have you on the show, man. How are you?
I'm fine, super fine. First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's an honor being here. It's always a pleasure listening to your podcast, collaborating with you. So obviously I want to thank you and Jake, for allowing me to contribute a little bit to your amazing project. And also thank you for introducing me to some interesting spot heads as well. Your group has really some characters in it, no? Some colorful characters.
The best.
And I think Serie A Spotlight allowed me, to discuss more Serie A things, Italian football with a local community,
Mm-hmm.
I think I hadn't found it anywhere here in Malta. So thanks to you, now I can, let my passion flourish, about Italian football and obviously contributing as well through my content with you. It's great as well. So thank you very much for allowing me to be part of your group.
No, thank you, man. Thank you for the insight that you bring in. Obviously, that's something that we seek, a bit more of a tactical approach. Jake and I, we're not journalists, we're not tactical specialists, we're simply fans. So collaborating with someone like you allows us to kind of give that different kind of content to people, get into a bit of the nerdier side of things as well. And also thank you for complimenting the community we've created. We feel like there are a lot of like-minded people that follow us and we're really happy with the community that we've created.
The more people there are, the more opinions, so
That's
sometimes I look at a thing and the other ones point out to something else.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I didn't see a particular match from that point of view or a player. So I mean it's a good way to bounce your ideas, no?
And a lot of people from different parts of the globe, as we were just talking about off air. So we've got, for example, Matthias that provides us with a lot of insight on players that are coming from the Swedish league, for example, that otherwise, like he pointed out Patrick Dorgu before he hit the mainstream, and he allowed us to keep an eye out on him. So these are the real stars behind our preparation because they give us everything we need to know. But just to start off on our little episode today, little in inverted commas, because there's a lot to talk about.
We leave the judgment to the audience.
Exactly. Why should someone listen to Tactics Imperivm, brother?
Well, I think, first of all, Tactics Imperivm is a kind of a spin-off of your of your mainstream show, no?
Uh-huh.
So I think by default, I would invite the audience who haven't already, hopped on to Tactics Imperivm to take a listen to it. Basically, for those who are not familiar with the show, I am the one hosting the show. It's a very short, I try to keep it not longer than 15 to 20 minutes, because I believe when you are speaking about football and from tactical point of view, the more you speak, I think the more the audience can get lost.
Jake and I call it a tactical cigarette. Because literally you go out, you smoke a cigarette, you go back in, and you have everything you need to know.
And I think it might be a little bit too heavy, maybe, if the longer it is. So the idea is to pick a match, multiple matches, a player or a coach from every match day. I try to keep it weekly, but it depends obviously my time, but it depends obviously from what the match day provides. Obviously from 10 matches there's always something interesting, so there's always something to point out. I try to balance it out between speaking about the top teams and the lower teams. Obviously in our case, maybe I focus more on the big guns, because the people might watch closely those matches. So when I'm speaking, when I'm explaining a dead ball situation, a corner scheme, they might visualize it, so basically in this show I speak about, I break down tactically the teams, how they played, their shapes, the players. I put in some statistics. I get the statistics from official sources, I mean Opta, Serie A, SofaScore, and they explain a bit what I have seen, and maybe point out some trends, some upcoming players, some dead ball situations that are now becoming a trend that maybe you should keep an eye on. And I think it's for those who are familiar, with football from a tactical point of view, they might find it basic, but I think through my podcast I would like to engage more with the audience from a different point of view, and maybe when they watch matches not drunk or not eating a pizza, they maybe can look at a match from a different way. They can experiment, and maybe start to learn, because nowadays maybe before we used to think that all coaches and players know this stuff, but nowadays with the internet you have a lot of information, public domain. You can easily search and learn how you can train yourself to watch matches from a different eye. So I believe that the general audience is getting more educated and more intelligent from this point of view. So I need to take care of my content and make sure that I'm not trying to picture myself as superior. I want to make sure that everyone is learning something, a term, a particular situation. So I hope that the next season, the one where basically it's my first full season with you, under your command, hopefully you can continue to explore more tactics and more players, and hopefully I can also allow more people to listen to me and also to interact. Would like to start to leave some room for you to ask some questions. Maybe they've seen something interesting, and I'll try to answer it as best as I can. Because most probably I might not have seen that particular thing, but they might still ask, and I think that's the beauty of having a community, as you said, no?
That's it, and that's what helps with having you in the group chat as well. After every episode, you get a bunch of questions over there. It would be good to address them on air. You make a good point,
yes.
Because it is within the questions asked by the community that people tend to learn a little bit more.
Exactly.
But I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you speak in a very factual way on the podcast. Like you speak strictly facts.
Exactly. It's not really opinions. It's just statistics, facts, and what I have seen.
And that's the difference, no? Because me and Jake are absolute opinion.
Exactly. But you create the discussion.
Exactly.
With other people, so you leave room for a Q&A, for discussions, and you just state your fact.
Exactly.
In my case, even if they send me questions, I won't answer what I think about, although there will be, because sometimes I see a particular formation, particular change in the formation, and I say Coach X changed from 4-4-2 to 4-3-3. And at that point I can say, I think he changed that formation because of blah blah blah.
Exactly.
But it might not be the case because it depends on a lot of things. Nowadays coaches have the GPSs on the players, they are tracking, so they might actually be tracking whether he's injured or not.
They have so much more data than us.
So and I'm not in the dressing room. So in fact, one interesting thing is that when I started in my job, in my full-time job as a journalist, we used to do the ratings of each player on the pitch, and after few seasons I found it difficult, and we discussed with my team to stop it, because first of all you can't rate 22 players on the field while watching it live the first time. I mean, in my case, to do match analysis I need to watch the match once or twice minimum, maybe the second rewatch not fully because I start to pick up notes and start to skip, but to analyze and to rate, it's difficult because I'm not in the dressing room. If I see a fullback not pushing up, I might say, what is this fullback? Put a 3 on him.
Exactly.
Then I speak to the coach and he tells me, listen, I told him not to push up because the opposite winger is very good, devastating.
No,
so I need to leave him at the back. So, I need to be careful about my judgment, about my critique as well,
Yeah.
So I try not to criticize. I usually I don't tend to criticize a lot. I don't really like.
How sweet.
Because I did work with teams. I have been in the dressing room, so I don't know. I have that player's perspective. So when I really criticize, it's like because I have seen that player previously and I know what he can do.
Yeah.
But even if I criticize, I'm not saying, listen, change sport.
Yeah.
I think next time he could do X, Y, Z,
Exactly. So how would you explain to someone how to watch football from a more analytical lens?
So when I was younger, I used to watch the game normally. By normally, I intend, just looking at the ball and that's it. And then I was starting to get frustrated because of the fact that I used to watch, and I still do watch, a lot of matches. And then I would speak to someone random and who would pick up a moment. I would say between myself, I didn't see that, man. Like, how did he see that? I think I understand football more than him, so then I was like, okay, I need to understand football. I need to observe football, not watch football. So and then I started to speak with people, doing some courses, etc. And I think from all the things I learned from watching football from a different point of view, I think 3 things stand out from this, that football revolves around space, timing and strategy. And I always, and the things that now I'm going to say is the things that I learned, but that I also believe in, because more or less are the guidelines for an analyst, but for those who want to watch football from a different point of view. So first of all, you need to watch the game carefully and to focus on it. You can watch it the first time, the second time, but I always believe that the first time is more observing, the second time is analyzing.
Okay.
You cannot analyze at the first time of asking, because you need to observe the formations, the patterns, the rotations, the players coming in, coming off, set piece situations, and all this stuff. When analyzing a match, it's also important to keep in mind external factors, weather, pitch conditions, the table, the standings, or if it's a knockout game, how many matches they played before. But obviously these are things if you want to create a report. If you want to watch a match normally, for example, pick one match. It's an easy task, pick one match and say, I'm watching Juventus today. Let's see Cup Miners, how disaster he is today. And I just focus on Cup Miners, for example, and you start to see him running around, roaming, dropping for the ball, receiving in the final third, etc. That's more scouting rather than analysis. But you start to observe a player. And then you start to realize that he's not playing in the position that maybe you expected to him, because spoiler ahead, the formation that you see before the match, it's usually not the one that you are seeing on the field nowadays. To be fair, there are the TV right holders that are now starting, because what happens actually, let me start from before. The teams enter the formation into the system, into the league system. They produce the match sheet gives the sheet to the TV right holders, journalists, etc. Usually and normally the teams do not actually fill the formation the right way. Obviously they try to keep a secret, a particular position, etc. Nowadays though, the TV right holders, for example, the one that show Italian football, they base the formation not on the match they are given, but on the usual position the players play. So actually it's now become more accurate, But I would still take it with a pinch of salt, to be fair. So first of all, when you see a formation, don't say, it's a 4-4-2. How come, I don't know, Koopmeiners is playing a winger? He doesn't. No.
Yeah.
Don't. Nowadays formations are just numbers. It's football. It's about the role that you are giving to the player on the field. He might start as a winger, but why is he playing winger? To drop back, to tuck in backwards, to fill in the number 9 space which will be left void by the striker. So when you start to try and watch a game from a different point of view, let's say focus on one team, because it might be difficult to focus on the two teams, and start to focus on the patterns, because patterns are the most important things. Match analysis, it's about KPIs, key pattern indicators. So let's say focus on the team A in possession. So in possession, what they are doing, the fullbacks are pushing up, the midfielder is dropping, the forwards the wingers are stretching wide, and you start to realize that actually it's not the same formation that you had in mind, and then obviously there are other stuff, because that's in possession. The game is divided into several phases, because you have the build-up possession, the development in midfield, the final third, and you have obviously the press versus build-up, and obviously these have their own subtopics, because build-up, it might be the long kicks, pressing versus build-up, it could be a high block, a mid block, a low block. You have the dead ball situations, which are becoming a crucial thing, especially in England, in the Premier League. I think in Italy it's not really the culture of having corner schemes is not that implemented like in England. For example, like Arsenal, they create an art from it, and they are already working on new schemes because of the new season, and obviously because they would become predictable. And the counter attacks are also a thing, but you need to see a pattern. It's not like that you see a particular move, you say, okay, that team plays that way.
Yeah.
You need to see it constantly. When you start to see it constantly, it's like, okay, that's a pattern. I keep that in mind. And obviously you need to not look at the ball, but see the off-the-ball movements, and how the players are behaving around the ball. And I think the more you watch, for example, the same team, the more you start to learn about them, And today now we have the statistics public domain as well. You can compare that, because this is a testing thing. Then you start to compare what you see with the data, and if the data is similar to what you have seen, you can say that, okay, I'm seeing things in the right way, because if you see a lot of crosses from the left, you have that impression. You go and check the statistics, and if you see, for example, 10 crosses from the left, okay, I noticed that. So how they are creating the crosses, So I think the first thing to do, for those who have never done this, pick a team, pick your favorite team, and focus on them. Focus how they are on the ball, off the ball, the formations, see how they rotate. Maybe check statistics as well if you're interested. I know obviously statistics are a bit heavy as well.
Yeah.
Nowadays in football, statistics are becoming I think like it's becoming science, man. Like there's too much.
Some people don't watch the game and try to make an analysis solely from statistics.
And that's the worst
it's the
thing
worst
you can
thing
do.
you can do, right?
Because
I think a good thing to do, and you mentioned that discrepancy from like the formations to where they actually play is I adore looking at the heat maps after the game, for example, because you look at Inzaghi shaping up in a 3-5-2 with Bastoni as the left centre back. Why is he the creative midfielder on the pitch? You know, you look and he's covering the left central midfield areas
exactly.
to a T completely. You even see Çalhanoğlu dropping into that position as a centre back pretty much. So you can almost create your own little formation just by looking at each individual's heat maps. And then you can learn more about their roles over there, who is creating space for who,
Exactly.
who is covering for who, which I think in Inzaghi's system last year, it was full of that. You could almost
Inzaghi's system was easy in brackets to analyze because it's very predictable and it's the same. Then if you have teams who are very fluid in their game, Manchester City, it might be a little more difficult.
That's
I mean,
a headache.
even for myself, to be fair, because you start with the things that you haven't really thought about before, etc. And you are like, wow, man, this is a different level. Doesn't mean that Inzaghi's system is of a low level, it's poor. No, it's just the way a coach, fits his idea.
Yeah.
But you pointed out a good thing, because that statistics in football, you cannot create a football match from statistics. No, because first thing, football is not like basketball. That possession, I have a possession 24 seconds and then the ball crosses the other side. And two, I still remember a particular match, Celtic-Barcelona, the Champions League, where Celtic had almost 20% possession, Barcelona had 80% possession. And if I put that, and if I send that photo of statistics to someone, he'll tell me Barcelona won 9-0, Celtic 1-1.
Exactly.
So football doesn't work that way. So you need to make sure that the numbers put them in context. That's very important. And to be fair, if you keep it simple, the better. Because nowadays there's a lot of numbers, metrics that even myself, I'm not really familiar with them.
Yeah.
Because even in Malta they are not really used. But there are plenty of statistics. So that's important. If you see a statistic, make sure to learn what it is, put it in context, and then see if you can apply it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. But that's one thing that Jake and I explained to our girlfriends recently, how they look at the ball when they watch football. We'd rather look around the ball and see if Leao is making the run he should be making, and when is Leao making that run. Is it when Santi is dropping deeper? Does he make the run inwards? Does he make it outwards? Who has the ball when he's making the run? And that just allows you, and then to critique players even better, because how can you just be looking at the ball and you say, pass the ball to him? If you're looking at the ball, you don't know where someone should be passing.
You always need to see the bigger picture.
Exactly. We have such an advantage, right? We're seeing all 22 players on the pitch at the same time.
How
you have to look at them.
How it is broadcasted as well.
Exactly. The Genoa.
This is the perfect stadium.
Genoa,
because the higher it is,
angle is fantastic.
Because you can see also the defensive phase, the preventive marking. Actually,
you could see Patrick Vieira losing his shit consistently.
It's true.
But that's a good point. We spoke a bit about Inzaghi as well. We spoke about shapes, about space. Obviously, a big thing in football is trends. You look at the trends that came about Italy with Catenaccio. You look at the Dutch with Total Football. You look at Brazil with their Gioco Bonito and this and that. What brings about trends in football formation specifically?
I think in football there has always been trends, and much like the retro football shirts, now football is having its retro formations in a way. For example, the 4-4-2, now I'm seeing a lot of 4-4-2s, not necessarily
making a comeback
on and I do love a comeback. My 4-4-2 is my special dish.
Okay.
And I will speak about that. The 4-4-2, it's being implemented in different ways, not being implemented from this start, but in pressing versus the build-up.
Okay.
Because usually teams are playing with a 4-2-3-1, and they can easily then adjust it to 4-4-2, having the central midfielder pushing up next to the forward, and you create the 4-4-2. 4-4-2 is very versatile. It can morph into a lot of formations. But as for trends from the very start in football, there have always been the trends. What are trends? Trends, it's copying, basically. Copying the one that is doing well, whether the formation, whether the system, whether a particular position. From the start you had England playing, the W formation, and then Chapman took over Arsenal in the 30s and he put on a different formation. And then what happened? England were used to play with defenders marking according to the number. Then they played Hungary of Puskas. Hungary were cunning and played with different numbers, and they destroyed them in Wembley. And then England started to think like, okay, now we can play with different numbers, although they kept, the traditional ones, the 3 for the halfback, etc., just to give an example. And then other teams were focusing on the technical part rather than the tactics, and it created a culture, Although when Englishmen were going to different parts of the world, carrying the football with them, it evolved in a different way. So I wouldn't say there was a particular time when there was the first trend. The whole trend has always been there, Then there was total football, as you mentioned, etc. Then you had Italian Catenaccio. Then you had Zaccheroni, who came with Milan and changed the formation. Actually, there was Sacchi before him, different formation, and then Zaccheroni, and it changed the formation from one to another. The first time that there's a change, most probably the team wins, because he stands a little bit the opponents.
Exactly.
And then we had then came Guardiola, actually. Then came Guardiola with Barcelona.
Who's had a few good teachers in his
It's
playing
true,
career.
and he learned something. He did learn some things. First of all, he played under some interesting coaches, and he learned some things which I will explain at some point as well, especially when he went to Mexico in 2005 or 6, and he learned a lot there. And then he went to Barcelona, and he invented the tiki-taka. Tiki-taka is just a name, it's just a passing game,
Yeah,
Obviously he had one hell of a team as well, so that helped out.
not too bad.
And many point out at him because he ruined football, because many now are looking at him. I think one thing that he might not have ruined football. I mean, I think that's a nonsense, argument. But
It's bullshit.
he opened the doors for more attacking football. And then came the gegenpressing, the high pressing, Klopp, etc. So I think if there is a formation that is offering success, they will try to copy it,
Yeah.
Whether on a big scale, on a lower scale. And actually, I wanted to point out, though, 5 trends that we might see in the next year, but we might already see. I've seen a couple of them also in the Club World Cup. The first one is touchline attacking fullbacks.
Okay.
The name is self-explanatory like the others. But basically, they stay wide while creating density in the midfield, in the build-up especially, and they just push forward. It becomes a sort of a 4-4 at times. The idea is to stretch the opponents. You need to have obviously fullbacks who are maybe more offensive than defensive, but who are technically very good as well. Can play one-touch football, have a change of speed, change of direction. And you have players in them that are press resistant, can control the ball, give tempo, can switch play with long balls. And I've seen that with Real Madrid, if I'm not mistaken, the Club World Cup.
That makes sense with Xabi.
Exactly.
Known to utilize his wingers and known to prefer midfielders that are very press resistant.
And he used to be a midfielder like them.
Exactly. He was the perfect press resistant midfielder,
Exactly.
often overlooked because of Xavi, Iniesta, Fabregas.
But he did win with Spain as well. He was really key. So so as you said, it's true. And he was doing giving the tempo, That one thing that he's working on as well. And then you have the roaming fullbacks, the one that start wide and then tuck in, and they end up in the final third as well. And the interesting thing about them is they give a hard time to the defenders, because now the defenders, they are asking to each other who will mark
Mm.
the oncoming fullback, because he's an extra player there. Tactics, they have space, etc. And one player that stood out last season was Cucurella with Chelsea. He did a lot. And he even scored goals as well, because then he make those late runs and on the second balls, etc. And it's difficult for a team when defending to prepare for that kind of run. So you're mostly focused on the players up front with the usual pattern.
Yeah.
But for someone to mark Cucurella, for example, you need players from other departments.
Yeah.
And that's usually a little bit difficult to have them track down, etc. Because many goals come from such situations, you know, lack of tracking or being slow, a lot of ball watching as well. So that's an interesting one, and that's becoming more common, especially when building up, tucking in immediately, etc.
And when you say roaming, would that be a little bit like what Motta tried to do with Cambiaso, for example? Just that slight like inverted coming in, joining the midfield.
More or less, yes. But then it depends on the player's technical ability. For example, Maresca wouldn't use much Cucurella in the build-up, tucking in, receiving the ball and passing it out. He was more about running forward, driving forward, and filling the space and receiving. Cambiaso is more of a technical player. He can easily play midfielder.
Yeah.
His body language, his technical
Same as
ability.
Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Exactly. You can compare them in terms of how they play, of even their physique, how it is as well. It's much like even Calafiore when he plays as a fullback. Exactly. So we can play the ball with them in the midfield, start combine with them at the back, and then switch play on the left. Now with Cambias, we have to see whether he sticks to that part, because I've seen with Tudor that he actually might be the one doing the overlaps, for example. So might be more involved out wide to combine with Yildiz and David, rather than
he's one of the ones, if you play him on the left versus if you play him on the right, he offers something completely different. Even though he's very ambidextrous, so he could essentially do the same thing on both sides.
It's true. And then you have the fluid back systems. I mean, depends, like the one starting the build up, whether he moves with the ball, and what the other two do, whether they stretch out or stay narrow, or even if one of them pushes up, and then you have one midfielder covering for him, and there's also sometimes one of the back three, usually the lateral ones, pushing up. The two central defenders stretch out, and then a midfielder drops in.
Yeah,
that's called La Salida La Volpiana.
Okay.
Which was introduced by a Mexican coach, Ricardo La Volpe. I think Guardiola was played under him.
Okay.
Learned it from him. And
this is where essentially number 6 drops deep, and the two centre backs stretch out wide.
For example, Locatelli
creates a
does
numerical advantage.
It creates a numerical advantage. It creates a dynamic advantage in the sense that you are probing the opponent, whether he's drawn out with you or he stays there. If he's drawn out, he's creating a space. If he's not drawn out, so then that midfielder has space to play the ball.
Exactly.
And the positional advantage, which is the same, but in terms that now you might have an advantage centrally, or laterally, depends where the other player pushed. And speaking of obviously the advantage, now we have also there's an interesting trend, emptying central spaces.
Okay.
First there is the double striker and high box. Real Madrid Manchester City actually used it in the Club World Cup before, even last year. I think Manchester United used to use it a lot, the box midfield, having two players, two kind of creating a corridor in the middle for more vertical passes, and that was in the defensive third. Manchester City did is having the pushing up the fullbacks and having a box up front in the final third, having two strikers and two players behind them. And first of all, you're creating an overload and creating a burden on the defensive line of the opponents, and you have plenty of players in the half space as well, so we have a lot of passing options and where to run. You can also obviously recover the ball high up the field, obviously there's the consequence of being surprised with a long ball on the counter attack.
Exactly.
So that's where preventive market comes in, the man-to-man, etc.
Uh-huh.
And the other thing is emptying central space. PSG used it a lot last season. There's the goal that Dembele scored against Arsenal in the semi-final of the Champions League. The ball, if I remember correctly, Donnarumma passed to the left, and Kvaratskhelia and Fabian Ruiz all made runs to the left side. But it was like, it felt like a rugby movement. In rugby you need to pass the ball backwards and not forward. This was more passing the ball forward, but the idea was having a player from central going wide, drawing a play with him. The other player behind him comes in the midfield and receives. And then the winger drops centrally and leaves other player alone, receives, and you have created with 2 vertical passes. You have basically switched the play up front, and now you can have a 1v1 on the outside flanks. And obviously to do this you need to have players who are technically very good with a good passing range.
PSG have exactly that, right?
So I think
if
those
you put any of their front three in a 1v1 situation, that's what you want. That's where they excel.
Devastating. I mean,
exactly.
And the moment that you give them space, I mean, they can drive forward, they can dribble on the spot, they can because they are good dribblers, they can beat the player one-on-one. So it's easy for them, So if you have these type of players, you can create this. But I think these are some of the trends, because they are not all the trends obviously, but some of the trends that maybe next season, which is coming up soon, we can keep an eye on as well.
Absolutely. I heard a saying that the way that football evolves is you have the innovators and then you have the disruptors who become the new innovators. So you find the Guardiola, and then you find the one that stops Guardiola, and then everyone tries to replicate that, and then the Guardiolas try to find a way to beat that. So it's constantly evolving between innovators and disruptors. And then obviously as time progresses, football changes. So one thing that we'll get into very shortly is, for example, the Allegri system. That is more of a counter-attacking system. How does that fare up against, for example, a Guardiola system? So is it outdated? Is it a solution? Obviously, styles make football matches, and that's what makes every game so unique. That's what makes some of the smaller teams beat some of the bigger teams. Doesn't mean they have a better coach or better players. It just means that their solution is stronger and more
for
ideal.
that particular match.
For that particular game. When it comes to formations, what would be your favorite one?
4-4-2.
4-4-2. Fair enough. We
4-4-2. I think.
Is it the versatility of it that you like?
No, I think because it's simple, maybe. But it creates a balance between the attack and the defense. It can morph into a lot of formations quickly. I think even if you coach it, it might be easier for the players to understand it. You are covering basically almost every space on the field as well. For the back, for the midfield too.
80% of your players are being used to cover the middle, which is where most of the action happens.
They can, if they shift, they can cover the passing lanes of spaces, etc. Obviously, then it depends what players you have, Because 4-4-2 can morph into a lot of formations. Whether you have the attacking full backs or half backs, they just stay at the back. If you have pure wingers or not, if you just have a midfielder playing out wide and just staying out there to defend, and what type of forwards you have, whether the classic tall one, short one,
My favorite, bro. My favorite.
Crouch there forward course.
Lukaku Raspadori. Last season.
It's true. So I do like that, and I myself I do like things that are not mainstream. And then in the 2010s, when we had Guardiola with Barcelona and then Bayern Munich, and Borussia Dortmund under Jurgen Klopp, gegenpressing, high pressing. And then came Diego Simeone, the 4-4-2, the anti-football. And he used to crush everyone at the Vicente Calderon. And that was like, man, that's football. Because I like the teams that are hardworking, tactically disciplined, organized, fight on every ball.
That's why you like Allegri, yeah?
That's why I like Allegri. Not usually the ones that are most technical, but they don't depend on one player.
Uh-huh.
They don't depend on the collective.
system,
It's
man,
like a
the
chess, man. And they had some good players in the midfield. Saul Niguez, Koke, and the ones giving, tempo on the midfield, the one tracking back, attacking.
Big physical center
Big
backs,
physical
Godin,
centre-
Miranda, these guys.
And it's difficult to play. You can, describe the football as much as you want, but it's difficult to beat them, man.
Yeah.
And they reached the Champions League finals where they were whisker away from winning it.
Yeah.
And
Mourinho, he has that infamous, was it the semi-final? I
Parc
think
de
it was
Barça.
the semi-final. The Park, the bus
Against
system
Barcelona,
against Barca. Bro, with 10 men in the new camp.
that was even more with Real Madrid or with Inter?
With Inter.
I mean, to be fair, that team was great to watch.
Absolutely.
Tactically organized, fighting on every ball. They had some good players as well. I mean, the home match against Barcelona, it was a masterclass. But even more the away leg, because after a few minutes he was with 10 men. Thiago Motta was sent off.
Yeah.
And that Barcelona was a team, man.
Yeah, it was peak Barcelona.
And to and to have Pandev playing, Samuel Eto'o playing left back, and
Bro,
pushing
crazy.
forward.
And there was the backstory to that as well, that the final was being played in the Bernabeu, which for two reasons. A, Barca were obsessed with the idea of winning the Champions League in the Bernabeu. Secondly, Mourinho moved to Real Madrid the following season.
Exactly.
I remember, because I used to love Real Madrid. And I used to support Real Madrid as a kid, Galacticos, what I mean?
It's true. And they won nothing, but yes, the Galacticos.
Exactly. I was always Real Madrid and Milan, obviously, always Milan at heart. But I remember when Inter won the Champions League and Mourinho was looking at the supporters like that with tears in his eyes. And my dad said, I don't think he's going to be joining Real Madrid, bro. Look how he's looking at the supporters. I told him, no, he's looking at the stadium. Because that's where he's going to win all those trophies.
He did the same with Porto before he left to Chelsea. He had removed the medal, etc. And then that famous farewell with Materazzi as well.
Beautiful. Materazzi, what a guy. Let's jump into understanding management and tactics. This is flowing excellently. Now we're talking about managers and we're moving into the
playing some fluent football today.
Exactly, bro. This is total football, what we're doing right now. What makes a good manager in your eyes, bro?
This is
loaded question.
This is an interesting one because let's put it on the pundits. Many pundits say a good coach is the one that wins. Granted.
Fair enough.
I believe that a good coach is the one that reaches his objectives. So obviously there is a way and a way how to reach your objectives. But I think first of all, a good coach is the one that reaches his objectives. Speaking about Serie, you have those coaches who can, create a team with very good players in his own formation. Although Conte nowadays doesn't seem really rigid. We'll speak about that, about his formations. And then you have the Davide Nicola, who can make a miracle, man. So, Davide Nicola saved Salernitana. I say he's a bad coach. How he is, man? Like, going there, usually halfway into the season, the team struggling, disaster, low scoring record. Like, what can alright, Gianpaolo failed at Milan, maybe, but I cannot say he's a bad coach. He went to Lecce, he completely threw out. I'm speaking about Lecce.
Represent.
When he went to Lecce, they were disaster, man. They finished actually disasters. They were the worst teams with a scoring record, 27 goals.
Yeah. All Kristovic.
41% of the goals were Kristovic.
Insane.
Rebic scored one goal only, I think. Might have been
it was against Juve. Of course it was against Juve.
The one Cambiaso. That was Cambiaso's magic.
Yes.
And he went there and he threw out his tactical philosophy and just played relegation football. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, F it. Because he couldn't put the players that he had. He couldn't implement his own style. And then there were a few games left. So he just started to play relegation. They still finished up with just 27 goals.
Yeah.
And because he did any scoring input outside Kristovic. The player that scored against Lazio, I forgot his name, the midfielder, hadn't scored in 2 years, I think, in 1 year or 2 years.
Crazy.
So I can't say he's a bad manager. He's a good manager. He knew the situation and he went there. Because I think a coach is made up from different skills. There's the tactical vision, the player management, clear communication. Those are all important things. And I do admire coaches that maybe adapt their philosophy to the players they have. I think that's one of the mistakes that maybe Spalletti did with the national team. He tried to create a club. He tried to implement his own style with the national team.
Yep.
And that national team level is difficult, especially for the short time that you have with the players. At club level might be easier, but it depends obviously the budget they have, how much the board, the administration can help you with bringing players that you want. If they cannot, you have to adapt to the players that you have, and this happens with the teams in the lower part of the table. No, so adjusting to the environment of the players that you have is important. For example, I do love coaches that focus on particular aspects that can give them the edge, focusing on set pieces. I think that's very important. And so I don't think that winning trophies is the only measure of success. A coach that reaches his objectives, then you might not agree with the way that they do reach their objectives, but and I know that you will ask me this, one of my favorite managers, and I will show my card. And I cannot say that Vincenzo Italiano is a bad coach. He lost 3 finals at Fiorentina. Okay. But man, he reached 3 finals at Fiorentina and won with Bologna. I mean, and then he lost against West Ham, against Olympiacos. Okay, it might sound disappointing, but Olympiacos were playing home in Greece. They were playing at the Athens.
Yeah.
And
that makes a difference.
they had a spectacular, even with the U team winning UEFA Youth League. And that's an interesting Olympiacos, because the one that was bringing players to Olympiacos is François Modesto, the new technical director of Juventus.
Okay.
So they did some good business there with Olympiacos.
I see.
And they had a really good team. And, okay, he lost against Olympiacos, but I mean Fiorentina and Olympiacos, I don't feel that there's a huge gap between them at the moment. Because I still wouldn't consider Fiorentina as a Serie A title contender, reaching 2 European finals, and he was close, and for them Fiorentina, not himself, but Fiorentina were close to reach another one last season as well.
Absolutely.
And then because obviously Palladino inherited Italiano's work, and then with Bologna, after a magnificent season, feeling the juice of Thiago Motta, having players leaving like Calafiori,
Zirkzee,
and reaching a final Coppa Italia, but it's still, maybe they were lucky because they had Empoli in the semi-final. I mean, most probably they could have eliminated Juventus at that point in time and beating Milan in the final. So they had they and winning the Coppa Italia after I don't know how many years. It's a big deal.
That's a magnificent
for me, they're a good coach. Obviously, Ancelotti is a good coach, obviously, but Ballardini is an okay coach because he used to save teams. I mean,
you make
depends
a
on
good
the
point.
situation.
You make a good point. Like if we talk about, for example, Guardiola, who
Guardiola won a lot, but Guardiola was inspired by
always
Bielsa. Bielsa didn't win a lot with nothing.
Exactly, but
Guardiola
always had a budget.
Game.
No, as well, he spent so much money at City. At Barca, he essentially inherited one of the greatest teams we've ever seen before. With Bayern Munich as well, he had a budget.
He's a striker, they bring him Haaland.
Exactly. At Bayern, he brought in Xabi Alonso, for example.
Conte, I forgot the quote about the €10, at Juventus when he said he couldn't eat with €10 in a €100 restaurant, I think.
Exactly.
That shows the type of coach he is. He is that wherever he goes, he needs the administration on together with him and sync and bring the players that he wants.
He needed Lukaku, he needed McTominay, he needed these guys. For me, bro, a good manager, as much as Conte's a phenomenal manager.
Of course. He wins wherever he goes.
In Serie A history.
I mean, even when he had the national team that he had in 2016, for me it was one of the poorest ones.
Absolutely.
He had, up front they had Pelle and Ederman. And he beat destroyed Belgium, he beat Spain, he beat Sweden, and he lost to Germany on penalties because of Zaza and
exactly.
That shows a good coach as well.
For sure. Yeah, and okay, those are great coaches. For me, a coach that is flexible, so a coach that doesn't only have one system and needs a specific players in order to succeed. Ancelotti had a brilliant quote where he said, "You think I'm gonna try build fucking play from the back with Everton? says I can have Pickford in goal and have Calvert-Lewin up front. Ping the ball to Calvert-Lewin. We bypass their entire
It's
midfield.
true.
So it is a manager that can see the strength of his players and build a team around his players. Because it's easy if you're a 3-5-2 merchant and you need DeMarco on the left and you need Barella in the midfield and you need Bastoni at the back. You go anywhere you want. You find teams with good budget and you buy those mold of players and you recreate your system and you win over and over again because it's how you know how to play. But for someone to go to a team and Ranieri, what he managed to do last season. De Rossi, they signed players for De Rossi and he didn't manage to make it work with them. Of course, they didn't give him much time, but that's a conversation for another day. Juric came in and he didn't manage to make it work. Disaster, complete failure and flop. And then Ranieri comes in, everyone's talking about, but he needs his players. What's he gonna do with Sule and Dybala? Can he play them both? He's not his kind of midfielder, he's not his kind of defender. He saw the strengths that the team has. He built a completely new system which we really hadn't seen him use before, and he almost got them Champions League. Who would have imagined that? For me is a great
and
manager.
with Roma he had almost won the Serie A as well. If he had not lost to Sampdoria at home, I think it was 2009, 2010.
Crazy, man.
And I was going to say he didn't do nothing. Then I thought, Leicester. And I've been to Leicester the year after to watch them, and I was impressed. Like, the city was still in ecstasy, man. It was like, I don't realize what he did. I don't know if he realized what he did. The city was, man, like buzzing just because of having won the league.
I mean, it's the great. In my opinion, that is the
Man,
greatest sporting achievement in history.
Which formation won that league, man? That was the 4-4-2.
There you go. There you go, bro.
Those 1-0 victories in the final stages of the season. Ujoa scoring against Norwich, and that was like, man, this team is going to win the league. So, and even then, Champions League he did well. They got eliminated by Atletico, I think. But wherever he went, and I think people started to notice Ranieri because of that. But even before Leicester, he used to do well, man.
Of course. People, we're just a bit too young.
Sometimes they forget that one of the first Chelsea teams that I saw was him, 2010-2003, and he reached the semi-finals. And then they sacked him because Abramovich came and brought in Mourinho. 2003-2004, the one that reached the semi-final. The other one, 2003, he didn't reach the semi-final. I don't think they won the Champions League. But 3-4, when there was still Zola, they reached the semi-finals, and I think they lost to Monaco. And then see how much money Abramovich spent to win the Champions League.
That's it.
And for all the money he spent, it's bloody Di Matteo who won the
That's it. With the inherited a team, to be fair.
Midway the season was doing poor, and then won the Champions League against Bayern in Munich.
Chelsea have a bit of a trend of that. So Di Matteo winning the Champions League with a team someone else built, and then Tuchel doing the same thing. Tuchel won with Lampard's 11, the team Lampard built.
And then they came close to Avram Grant.
Exactly.
So you know, not obvious. Tuchel had already a good CV, but you know, Di Matteo and Avram Grant didn't have that CV, you know.
Avram Grant.
Di Matteo basically now he's just roaming in Sardinia, man. He's doing nothing.
Avram Grant, the man who tried to bring Michael Mifsud to the Premier League, to Portsmouth. That would have been something. Who are the best managers in Italy at the moment, and who are some interesting ones that might fly under the radar this season?
The one, the best managers. I mean, it's obviously up for debate, but one of my preferences is the Italiano, as I said, you know, and he's aggressive, tactically versatile. He's very inspired by Sacchi and by Guardiola. For a change. And I do like his
Even I am inspired by Sacchi, I think.
when I wake up in the morning.
How am I going to be more like Sacchi today?
I think what I like is that he tends to use a lot the 4-4, very aggressive, high press man, like, and he focuses on the aspect that players need to run forward and not retreating.
Yes.
You know, even the goalkeeper has to run forward and not retreating. Obviously, you know, there's elements of gegenpressing, the high press and high ball recovery that comes, you know, by default. Because the high press that he has is not like allowing the team making a first pass and then there's a trigger. You know, usually the trigger is center back passes to the
Uh-huh.
full back, and there's a trigger, shifting and pressing.
Yeah.
He basically boom and marks from the start.
Castro's
up
his
front.
guy over there.
And speaking of Castro, first of all, last year, I wanted to mention this because last year one of the biggest matches that Bologna had was against Napoli at home. This amazing statement. They had 47 ball recoveries. They created 7 big chances from those recoveries and had 12 shots, man.
Jesus
12
Christ.
shots. And he's a bit of a divisive character because nowadays in Italy there is before in Firenze during Dante era, and there was the Guelfi and the Ghibellini fighting with each other.
Okay.
And I do love Dante and I do love Renaissance, man. One day we can create the podcast.
Amazing.
Nowadays in Italy you have the risultati and the giochisti, the ones that focus on winning, Allegri, and the giochisti, De Zerbi, and the one hyped by the media.
Sexy.
Exactly. The conservative and the sexy.
Exactly.
We can put it that way. Perfect. And because they were saying that he's too conservative, he's too rigid, and he didn't win anything, but he did the finals, man. And that he's too much loyal to his philosophy. But I think one of his strengths is giving his teams a clear identity. One thing that makes a good manager, giving teams a clear identity, a blueprint of how we want them to play. And reaching the finals, obviously, is a result of that, It reflects the work that he puts on the team, and the preseason especially.
Not only that, but it's getting people on board and getting them to, because whenever he's at a team, you see them, they play for him, man.
They play
That's
true. Him. Like Mourinho 2010, no? And I forgot to mention that, but one thing that makes a good coach is, convert, the players to believe in you,
Exactly.
to believe in your philosophy and to fight with you, man, literally. I think that's one thing that maybe creates another thing around Italiano is that he's a little bit, he's very furious on the touchline.
He's a lunatic who on the touchline. He's crazy.
A little bit is an understatement.
But just to stop you again, kind of segue into that, man, because it works for Italiano and it mostly works for Allegri. You see Leao reciprocating now a little bit, even though there were characters that didn't.
Allegri, Juve Capri. That was amazing when he threw off the...
Yes, bro, legendary. Honestly, I fell in love with him there. But then there's, for example, so you look at Leao, how he responds to Allegri. Nowadays, still obviously a lot more to see. This is pre-season we're talking about. But then you see how he responds to Fonseca and Conceição. So these are all very authoritative figures that try to discipline you. So
and who are coaches who speak his own language.
Exactly. So it really says a lot with what approach a coach takes and how good a coach is by how he gets players to respond to him. Zidane with Real Madrid, his number one concern was, how am I going to keep 20 world-class players all happy? And he did.
I think the thing, Zidane is interesting. I think his status overshadowed the whole dressing room, though.
Yes.
Because when Zidane is speaking, I think even Modric bows down,
Yes, even God.
Because Zidane is speaking. One of the cliche things in coaching and everything, Tom, is that no one is bigger than the club, no one is bigger than the coach. You treat everyone the same, but nope, you don't treat everyone the same, man. You can't treat everyone the same.
You can't.
Okay, Leao hasn't proved that he's a world-class player, honestly. But let's say you cannot treat maybe Leao like you treat Pobega, the first name that came up to mind. They are different. Not that you allow him to do whatever he wants, but the way you speak to him, the way you behave, the way you teach him stuff is different, because you know that you need to count on him. You know that he delivers, but maybe he's a different type of player as a character. Maybe you need to spoon-feed things, but even has some ego. You need to control that.
These are human. Some of them some of them need a father. These
It's
are guys
true.
that
So
are away
you
from
need
home,
to, but even from a point of view of ego, etc., you need to take care of them. Sometimes you need to close an eye on whatever they do if they go out. I mean, Leao likes to fashion, etc. If that things helps him on the field, it's okay, So maybe Allegri is aware of the thing and he can handle him better from that point of view.
Okay.
Fonseca and Coy says, oh yes. But maybe since they are both from Portugal and they knew Leao, they try to make sure to boom, have a stamp on his situation, but it didn't work that way, And speaking about Bologna is an interesting team to watch next season, as well, because
incredibly interesting.
Because people say that he's rigid to his formation, and now what he's do, he will strengthen more that philosophy, because what he's trying to do, and I know this in different leagues, he's still keeping the 4-4, but up front he's most probably going to play with 2 9s. He's focusing a lot on scoring a lot of goals. So he brought in Immobile, obviously, and let's say he starts Castro next to him. What he's doing now, sometimes it starts as a 4-4 straight away or 4-2-3-1. He might have Dallinga, for example, near them. They start 4-2-3-1, and I think he will focus a lot on Odegaard, from what I see in different leagues, starting from the midfield, making the second runs to join them, and have a department full of 9s, And obviously, if when Bernardeschi returns from injury, have to see where he puts him. But I think the focus is having a lot of goals, and that will be interesting whether it works out or not. We'll have to see. But the more they give him this stick about not winning or being too rigid or being too offensive. I mean, he's going to double the blueprint.
Exactly. he's aggressive in that sense, and you see it works in so many different ways. So for example, Indoi, who always struggled for numbers, he gets a very attacking minded coach in Italiano. He quintuples his figures, and they make 30 million off him. So capital gains in that sense. But also just to get the best out of your players. I think it's
if a manager, if you bring a player, 1 million player to your manager, and then you sell it 30 million, it's thanks to the coach as well. That makes a good manager.
Exactly. And also another thing that Italiano did that I really enjoyed was that game against Inter. He didn't start Orsolini. And then Orsolini comes on and he scores a ravusciata in the last minute.
That's amazing.
Versus, again, just to draw the parallel to what Conceição Fonseca tried to do with Leao, he came on and he looked disheartened, not motivated. Does that say more about the player, about the coach? I don't know. So you said Italiano is...
let's consider him one of the best managers.
One of the best managers in
the
Italy.
One flying under the radar. I don't know if he's flying under the radar or close to the radar, but for me, it's Gilardino.
I love you, because I couldn't agree with you more. I think, and this is what I want to say as well, I think Gilardino is one of the most underrated coaches. I think he was completely scapegoated at Genoa. I think what fucked Genoa last season was... I don't think Vieira saved them. I think Vieira did an excellent job when he came in.
Yes,
he did a very good job. He made things simpler for them, which was perhaps what was needed for a team that was in the situation they were in. But he was flooded with injuries. Flooded with injuries.
And he was getting good results, man.
He was getting very good
First match to 2 against Inter,
I think he was struggling. He
was, but in
in the
Italy they don't
relegation
have
zone.
patience,
That's it.
They sack you immediately, and then they might bring you back again.
Monza with Nesta.
And good point. Speaking about Nesta, because one thing that stands out from Gilardino is that from the whole 2006 World Cup winning team, I think he is the one that is trying to establish himself in the Italian top flight, but who started to coach from the lower categories, and then ended up in Serie A with his own philosophy, and not necessarily because he was pushed. For example, because now Gattuso is the national team coach, but before that he did coach important clubs. I believe more because of his status rather because of his coaching philosophy. Because outside Italy then he went into different difficult situations, and I give credit to him for that, because he was never afraid to go to Crete to Crete and to Hajduk Split, the last team that he was in, and even in Italy he was in some difficult situations. I remember at Pisa as well, and but then Nesta, he was started in the USA, but then when he came to Italy, he never really, really established
Stamped
himself.
his authority.
And De Rossi as well, they do heap praise on De Rossi as well, but obviously you haven't seen him, establishing himself as well.
I think he'll be good. There's Grosso, of course. As well.
Grosso as well, who I think he might not be a bad coach, but at the moment he's just lurking in Serie B.
Two promotions, Serie B. We get
last
to see
season
him in Serie A
was a
for
very
the
good
first
season,
time.
so maybe now he's getting a grip on it.
And it's good because he had gotten Frosinone promoted from B to A, and he left to join Lyon. He completely flopped at Lyon.
Exactly.
And got beat up as well.
That's true.
And I was like, shit, I really want to see him in Serie A. Now we get to see him after he got Sassuolo promoted.
So this
I'm excited, man.
And obviously another player from Tosin who doing well, I think, for Ponzag, yeah. I think he's becoming a Serie B expert now.
He's becoming a Serie B expert, and he's at Palermo because he's smart. Because Palermo are gonna go up to A, and they are gonna be a force to be reckoned with.
A better contract. He's with the City Group, so it was even though Pisa have a really good project. Choosing to interview their president and to the new ownership, and they are building on the brand just like Como, maybe on a lower scale. It's an interesting one, and Pisa got Gerardino. No?
Exactly.
In fact, about Gerardino, then I did some research about him because I didn't really follow him from the start, and obviously because he started in Serie D. So that's just that already tells you, okay, he's humble enough to start there, to study on his own, and not to let his CV and status as a World Cup winning coach, Champions League, allow him to immediately get straight into Serie A. That means that he really wants to do things well, and he wants to learn the craft,
exactly.
to master
no
the craft.
shortcuts.
He used a lot of formations, 3-5-2, 4-4-2, 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, depending on the squad. I read some interviews about him, and one thing that he prioritizes eating with the players, for example, when he was the team in the hotels, etc. And they do really praise him for creating a strong team spirit. I think that's the number one feature. And then when he went to Genoa, he said that on the 3-5-2, and he got I think 49 points. I think they really say
they came, I think, 11th or 12th.
They survived these. They reached targets very early in the season. So it was completely cool. And maybe because he's a striker, I don't know, but he always likes to focus on a physical striker. Who is it? Penamonti, Retegui, and manages to also combine them with technical players, Gudmundsson, Macias as well, and
Malinovsky.
Exactly. And besides then, from praising him about creating a good team spirit, he's very meticulous and tactically sharp as well. So it's a good knowledge of the game as well. You would expect that from a coach. But when people point it out from those who are with him, it says something about him as well. And I'm really interesting to see how he'll fare with Pisa. Obviously, the goal is to stay in Serie A, so it'll be difficult. I think it's an interesting one. So
everyone has them going back down, huh?
Yes. I mean,
it's a tough gig,
a tough one.
But
it's a tough one.
This is where he can really prove himself. I do feel like he's worthy of a bigger club. I think if he left Genoa after that first season, he would have upgraded. And I was telling Jake, what I wanted was, again, this is just me being overly romantic about football, polar opposite to you probably, who's way more analytical. But I wanted Gilardino to leave Genoa, go to Fiorentina.
Okay, because he was at Fiorentina.
Because he was at Fiorentina, do 2 seasons there. And then what? He goes to Milan.
He
goes to Milan, plays a 3-5-2.
I wouldn't rule out him being at Milan at some point. I mean, maybe Berlusconi would have brought him.
For sure. Bro, he brought the entire starting 11 in the banter era. There was Brocchi, Inzaghi, Seedorf.
Man.
Everyone.
And he ruined a couple of them, Brocchi and Seedorf.
Brocchi.
Oh my god.
What a character. Okay, so good answers, and I think I pretty much agree spot on with both of them. To jump a little bit to those 2 coaches that we mentioned earlier, Allegri and Conte, what do you think of their styles? Do you think they're outdated on an international level?
I think no system is outdated unless you play with the libero at the back. No?
like Valletta did with Jordi Cruyff, bro. You remember that?
I mean, Although I would love to see a team test it out, to be fair. I don't know. It might work because, obviously against the offside trap, etc. It wouldn't really work. But, having a player that maybe drives forward from the back and, creates all the advantages, dynamic position you make. I think
maybe the regista could drop extra deep.
I think it might happen, but not with the regista. I think it's already happening with the goalkeepers.
Oh, fair.
The super keeper, having them playing with their feet, and right now it's a hot topic with Donnarumma, etc. Having them playing with their feet really outside, like Manuel Neuer used to do that. There was a club in Germany who used to do it. I forgot what club was it. But they used to just, open up like away from their box to their goalkeeper. And nowadays that's another trend, but it's not really a new one. Having the goalkeeper, having the two central defenders spread wide, and having the goalkeeper between them. For example, Maccabi Tel Aviv did it against Hamrun.
Exactly.
Pushing the full backs, having the two center and having the goalkeeper. We have more players up front.
To be honest, I see most teams.
Or even the build up, a player passes to the goalkeeper first, not the other way around. They do it because the player then moves forward. And then you create a space for him.
Exactly.
And they press the goalkeeper, etc. So I don't think there's no single formula to win. First of all, and I don't think that Allegri style is outdated. It may be boring, but I do believe that it is still effective. So I think even Milan's choice of bringing him back is an interesting one. Doesn't really mean a setback, but it means bringing an experience and a winning coach who can settle the team. It will be interesting to see him maybe for the first time not coaching a team full of big name players. Maybe that will be interesting. He looks more relaxed as well. Even when he was at Juventus, the last spell, he was more relaxed in terms of even with speaking to media and to players, etc.
Very funny guy, man.
I listen. For those who understand Italian and never watched the Allegri press conference, man, tune into everyone.
Bro,
it's a podcast. Man.
Like I hate the overuse of the word aura, like with Calafiori and this and that. They almost just apply it to good-looking people nowadays. Allegri has an aura.
First of all, he's an intelligent person, man. I mean, if I do expect at one point he started to speak about horse racing in the press conference. Corto Muso.
You saw the banners in the stadium. Do you know anything about horse racing? He brought a spirit, a belief, which is what was needed.
It's interesting because I think many Milan fans wouldn't have signed to bring him back, but once you see him and you see him working, you say, okay, I mean, you might need it. And now this season they don't have European football as well, so it's easier for him to prepare for one game to another. So that's why I might consider Milan to be as a prize, not to win the title, but to be competitive. To be competitive.
Maybe they will, bro.
I mean, Napoli is Napoli are 2 steps ahead of Inter. 2 steps ahead of Inter. From the other teams, they are way ahead.
Absolutely.
Because of his Conte, what limits Conte maybe is the reputation, his lack of European success, but not winning, advancing, just progressing.
But now he has 2 starting 11s.
I think it's true. I think this season it's his test. It's his make or break at Champions League. I don't expect him to win it with Napoli, because if he wins it at Champions League at Napoli, I don't know what I cannot imagine what happens in I cannot imagine what happens in Napoli, man. I can't imagine. And Conte, they would build a monument for Conte. I winning the Champions League with Napoli.
I'm surprised they haven't yet, to be honest.
But he has. This season he has a really squad depth, man. De Laurentiis has really brought the players to him. And one interesting thing though about Conte is though last season he tinkered a lot about the formation, not like unlike previous season. He used to stick to 3-5-2, etc. 3-5-2,
3-4-3, 4-4-2, 4-3-3. Everything he was, man. 4-5-1.
If I remember correctly, he started with a 3-4-2-1. Then brought in McTominay and switched to a 4-3-3. 4-3 remained an option, then switched to a 4-2-3-1. Now he has plenty of options to change the starting 11 because the players are good now. Belkema, Luca, although maybe he's you know, that bomber that maybe deliver, but he can deliver actually the goals needed throughout the season, those scrappy matches maybe, you know. No, Arang, man. I mean, there are I saw formations where they wouldn't put Neres or Langer
Bro,
start.
I saw the two starting 11s next to each other, and I'm like, which one's better, man?
Pretty sure there are multiple even three, because you know De Bruyne can play just behind the striker, can play Mezzala, can play
They've got
midfield.
four incredible midfielders in McTominay, in Lobotka, and Anguissa, and in De Bruyne, and then they have Billy Gilmore, who's no joke either, bro. It's they're absolutely
Even at the goalkeeper, they
stacked,
stick,
bro.
man, with Milinkovic-Savic as well.
For me, clear starter, better than Merit.
At the moment, it looks like he will. I think that's where he might F it up, man. If he starts to rotate the goalkeepers. That doesn't really work out if he starts to play Meret and Milinkovic-Savic. Sayo, he said that just to keep Meret in, you know, focused. Although he doesn't need to speak in public to keep him focused. I'm pretty sure that he will have spoken to him, etc. You know, or else he will really restart that, and then he will stick to Milinkovic-Savic, for example, and play with him.
I think it's the classic that he'll use
but maybe in
someone
Champions League
consistently
uses
for
one,
Serie
maybe in
A.
Champions League uses, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not really a fan of that, you know.
Using a different keeper for different competitions.
It depends on the competition. For the Coppa
For
Italia,
me,
it's okay.
play the better one.
For the
Ah,
Coppa Italia, it's
maybe.
okay. Ma Coppa Italia, you just play one game.
Exactly. He plays 6 games
What
in
the
a
heck?
season.
I mean, so Champions League and Serie A, I don't know if and why on which criteria you play Milinkovic-Savic in Serie A and Meret in Champions League. In Champions League, eventually you play against better teams.
I think that he'll find that for the football he wants to play, and like we said, the goalkeeper playing an important part nowadays. I think Vanya's so much better
And
with
he
the ball
brought
at his
Vanya
feet.
for
that
particular
reason. For that reason, and he's so Naples coded. I think any Serbian would be Naples coded because of their tough and hardcore personalities. So you don't think that any of them are outdated on international level? I think I agree. I mean, we saw Allegri in 2 Champions League finals with Juve as well. I think Conte hates the Champions League. I think sometimes he almost neglected it and purposefully.
with
He took
Juve,
the
pretty
Napoli
sure,
job. With Juve, he's at. With Inter, he finished last in his group once.
It's true.
Definitely wanted to play just in Serie A. I will make that claim. And he took the Napoli job. Probably he's like, I play once a week. Fantastic. I don't need to.
But when I
purposefully
saw
get-
that appointment to once a week, I said, shit, Napoli will win the title.
And now Milan seem to be trying to replicate exactly that by getting an old school Italian coach playing once a week.
But the market that Napoli did last season, it already fast-tracked Napoli's route towards the title.
Yeah.
Milan's transfer market, don't seem it really. It's targeting Serie A title.
It's interesting.
Although if he
I
wins it with that team,
I expected them to go a lot more for Serie A experience, to focus on Serie A this season, and then add some European gems here and there for the Champions League the following season. But I think it's a decent balance of both, you know. More to be seen, I guess.
because some of the players are a bit unknown in the top leagues.
Yashari, I had a very humbling experience in Malaysia last week when first night we're at this resort, and I hear someone speaking Italian, and I'm like, oh man, che squadra, bro. And he was a Lazio fan.
Ostia.
And
He's
we-
very
we-
happy with the transfer market.
Yeah,
This-
and I'm skin, a poor guy. But he's very happy with Sarri. We got drunk, bro. We got so drunk. Me, him, and Jake. Us, bro. 6 hours drinking, playing darts, and talking to this
That should
guy.
have been a
about-
podcast, man.
It should have been a podcast, bro. And I told him, now, bro, we get Yashari. And he looked me in the face. He's like, bro, who the fuck is Yashari? I'm like, wait, plays with Bruce. He's 22. He's really good. 23.
He's not used to any players coming into his team.
Fair enough.
Because
But
if
to
you
be
like your
fair,
fan, you're frustrated.
But absolutely, it's the transfer ban. But they can start signing as of January. They might get Insigne.
I think in January they will get an unknown player for 500,000.
Probably, yeah.
Listen, Sarri is a good coach. I'm not going to make a claim per se, but I see Lazio struggling this season.
I don't think
not
they'll
maybe
be in the
fighting
Europe-
for survival.
No, but they'll.
But if they start
Similar
wrong
to-
and he doesn't have enough players to change it, I mean, the only player he has is Cancellieri who came back
And
from
they
loan.
already struggled with depth last
And
season.
he did, apparently he did, I didn't watch the match, he did well against Burnley and they're hyping him up. So, you watch, he's the one coming back, a new face of.
No, Sarri is great. I don't think he'll be anywhere near
I don't
the
think
bottom
so. If yes,
part of the table.
that's
But I
that's
think-
a huge story.
I think without the ability, firstly with Baroni last season, they started so well. They did
Listen, Baroni,
so well for the
for me,
majority
still
of
did
the
a good job
season.
with that,
Absolutely, I was surprised they let him go. I was very, very surprised. That they
But
let
the
him
way
go.
it ended, because he lost to Bodo Glimt in the penalties.
Uh-huh.
But if one player had a miserable penalty, man, I mean,
Allah, what can you do? He
And
was
after
so
making a comeback
dominant in the
against Bologna.
Europa League. He was so dominant in the Europa League. He was in the top 4 for the majority, and then it crumbled. There was the lack of squad depth. Maybe he made some mistakes, and there were those 2 devastating losses that didn't help him either.
then he lost to Lecce, I mean.
And then he lost to Lecce.
Nine on
and
the
then-
Goffin, the Verda.
that's it. But in season number 1, that we're saying. That's season number 1.
Oh.
But now, Sarri, I'm not going to say he has a bullshit team. He just can't add
Yeah,
those
Canada,
strong
yeah.
players. Like, for Sarri, it would be brilliant if he could bring in a Ruben Loftus-Cheek, for example, in midfield. Fits his system
What
to a
difference
T.
it would make, Ush.
Exactly. Or if he could get another striker.
Especially for a
to
team playing only
Tati
once a week now.
Castellanos. Exactly. They need another striker. They can't just have Tati. You know what I mean? Maybe if they got like a Raspadori of sorts. I don't know.
Exactly.
But I think they'll be like 8th, 9th. That's like the
Might be lower, to be
prediction
fair.
that I
don't
have.
know.
I don't know.
I see
about
Torino is a
lower.
good team, to be fair. Baroni come azioni,
Yes.
he took over there.
Yes.
Zapata should return, but we have to see how he returns. They kept more or less the top players they had. So
They had to wait. They take me sure gonna sell Rovella to Milan.
Correct.
That wouldn't make sense. Milan signing of Allegri. Step forwards or step backwards?
no, I think it's the step they needed.
Exactly.
I don't think it's a step backward. No, after all, Allegri is an established coach, experienced, a winning coach. He was already at Milan, so he knows what defense demands, etc. Although he wasn't defending here, of course. As I said, he might be more relaxed this season. I don't know what objectives the club set on him. I think qualifying to Champions League, maybe it's the minimum.
I think top 4 would be
top 4, no?
would be the goal.
I think but obviously the market that they are doing, it's players who are not tried and tested in Italy or in the big leagues. So you'll have to see how they fit, no? Obviously Thiago left, so you need to replace him at the back or make sure to have enough cover for him.
The winter, good Serie A experience.
The winter gives you a good versatility because he can play with
Right
3 at the
back,
back, he can play
right
centrally, centre back. I don't know if he starts, to be fair, because at the
It
moment...
depends. In a 3 at the back, he walks in. 3 at the back, he walks in.
But I see that there is Tomori, Pavlovic and Gabbia, for example. You know?
But for me, it's Gabbia starter, and then you go with either Tomori or Pavlovic, because I don't think you can have... They're both very aggressive, and they both tend to get that rush of blood to the head and go out of position. So unless it's a WWE tag team match, I don't think you should have Tomori and Pavlovic.
I do love Pavlovic, to be fair.
Yeah, Pavlovic,
He's got
I
play with his
hope...
feet, of course.
He's excellent.
He's good,
He
man.
charges forward, bro. He's got that stride. He's got that strength.
He's good.
He has the right coach to take him to the next level. Pavlovic, for me, he was the defender I didn't want to lose as a Milan fan. Pavlovic, his ceiling is very high. Ciao, 40 million is a great amount for
They
Ciao.
needed to sell as well. And that's exactly 40 minutes.
It's a very good amount. If with that money Milan can get 2 centre-backs, everyone's saying Leone this, Leone that. Leone would have been good, but I'm not willing to take a 40 million risk on an 18-year-old that played 17 games last season. I'm not. And Milan play a lot more dominant football than Parma did. Parma were always the defending he had to do was in front of him, not behind him. With Milan, it'll be a bit different. So I think with 40 million you can buy 2 good centre backs. They brought in the winter. Now they're talking about that Flamingo guy that we spoke about at PSV, who destroyed
There is
Juve.
other defender that the other defender that is coming from Young Boys, I think.
Etikame.
I don't think he's a starter, to be fair.
him
But he's
is
an
a
interesting
start.
player. He's an interesting player. Ironically, the last match he played was a couple of weekends
It
ago
was a disaster, I heard.
against Sion,
Ah.
defending Schwaref. The Moldova.
Oh, Schwaref, our goat. Our goat is Teddy Teuma, but Schwaref is there.
Mac. So he's an interesting player. Obviously, coming to this area, etc. I think that's there are the two question marks around Milan. I think the one department that looks strong, obviously up front, especially if Jimenez, establish himself like at Feyenoord.
He needs to.
Maybe coming in January didn't really help a lot, and then change of coach.
Had an injury as well.
Started well and then flopped a bit. But now he seems good. I read that Allegri wants him.
He also wants Rasmus Højlund quite strongly, and I heard he's getting closer and closer. So, what does that mean for Santi? I don't know. I like the midfield, and I like how Tare and Allegri came in and said, I know Milan conceded a lot, but it's not the defense, it's the midfield, and they focused on getting 3 solid midfielders. And Ricci, we talked about Serie A experience. Ricci was the perfect signing for that midfield.
The way he fitted in the national team as well, man. The match he played against France, for example, Parc des Princes. He's really good.
Modric, you bring in an
yeah.
absolute winner, a winner, bro, a leader. You bring in the Zlatan.
It fits Milan CV, yeah.
Exactly.
The Milan status.
For free, you want a free as well.
And I think with all the players that are coming in, young ones, etc., Modric can help them out for sure. Right?
And then Yashari, who I know, Club Bruges,
De
Ketelare. Believe me, I've already had like 6 nightmares about Yashari flopping, but I genuinely think this guy is gonna be huge.
I trust
really,
Tare
believe in him.
as well.
Tare is excellent. Let's jump to Juve. You guys, because Juve fan, by the way, you stuck with Tudor. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, if you put it that way, it sounds bad. Yeah, stuck with you. But
you chose Tudor, even though it was clear that Juve wanted Conte, and then Juve wanted Gasperini.
So I don't know.
There was the apparently the phone call between Elkan and Gasperini is hilarious. I think it was Elkan who made the phone call. I don't know.
Probably, yes.
And he was like, "So tell me, Gasperini, why should I sign you?" I was like, "You're calling me. You're calling me. Why should I come to you?" And he went to Roma.
I mean, I was a bit concerned for having Gasperini on the team, honestly, because of his character mainly, in terms of Tudor, listen, summer football is summer football, the friendlies, the preseason. Sometimes I take them with a pinch of salt, but it gives you an indication, I saw some interesting stuff in the friendly against Borussia Dortmund. I think he's doing something good. Not necessarily winning this area, although Juventus objectives are always winning, no? But I think now he had more time with this team, with the few signings that came in as well, so he can work out different tactical stuff, The issue with Juventus might not be more Tudor, but the administration. First of all, depends what objectives they gave him. Now, they played against Next Gen, the typical friendly against the youth side, and Elkan spoke and said that Juve need to win. Locatelli spoke, Juve need to win, and that's already an upgrade from the previous season where they used to hide behind the excuse, qualifying Champions League, blah, blah, blah. So I am assuming the target is to win. Win what? Serie A, I imagine, no? Not the Coppa Italia. If it was a good decision to finish with Motta or Tudor, I don't know. Maybe I would have finished with Thiago Motta and then evaluate at the end of the season. Maybe I would have brought you a Coppa Italia, I don't know. But with the team as it stands, I don't know if Juve is able to win this area, and if the objective is still finishing top 4, haven't really been an upgrade from one objective to another, from one goal to another, no? Obviously, Juventus had basically reshuffled the administration, no, this summer. Commonly coming in, general manager Chiellini now, director of football strategy, and Modesto, the one that I spoke before, is the technical director, whom Tudor wanted. He didn't want Modesto per se. He wanted a person who could rely to and who could report to. That was something missing from last season at Juventus because it was really Giuntoli and Thiago Motta, but Thiago Motta didn't really report to Giuntoli on what was happening in the team. That he lost control of the dressing room. I think there were some situations that could have been handled better. Danilo and other stuff. And the transfers are interesting, but slow. I mean, Jonathan David came in. I'm a bit concerned about Jonathan David because, he had a good season at Lille. International player with Canada, but Canada are improving. So he's playing with a good team. And nowadays, football has no stereotypes. You can bring a player from Barbados and he's good.
Exactly.
So at least of worries. But it's like the big teams didn't really focus on him.
He was up for grabs for a long time, bro. For a long time.
So when
I joke that Fabrizio Romano is his employee, trying to get him signed, always posting about him.
I wouldn't be surprised. But then he came up too. He's a good player. Obviously, maybe not a world class player, but he's a good player. The first touch is certainly an upgrade from Vlahovic. Elvis Conceição. He's a divisive figure, because he's a good player, dribbler, skillful, but
I like him, man.
He sticks a lot with the ball, man. He doesn't really make that.
He's someone to bring on, in my opinion, more than anything. He's very direct, an impact sub, and I think he can grow with the right manager.
I hope so. And if they brought him, it means that Tudor wants him to play behind the striker and the 3-4-2-1, which at the moment looks like the initial formation. And
very slow, like you're saying, man. The transfers have been
slow, and they brought in João Mario. He's an okay player. He's an okay player.
Was it an upgrade? That move?
It's an upgrade from Roberto Costa. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know. Genuinely, I couldn't tell you. It feels like a really lateral move from where I'm standing. It feels
more like not a political move, almost like financial move. Maybe. Although I think because actually Porto gave the player and the money for
Alberto Costa.
And when Porto gives you money, there's something fishy. Porto gives you money, and give you a player and money with the player. I don't know. But obviously they need to strengthen the back as well, because
at least Bremer's coming back.
You need to see in which condition he returns, as well. And he need to also to load up options as well, because eventually we return to Rugani as always. There's been a lot of seasons that Rugani going to leave in summer, and then February, March we say, Rugani can play.
Rugani can play secondary striker.
Rugani. So they are working on a defender at the back. I saw a couple of names, Andre Santos, and now they are working on a player to play behind the striker. O'Reilly of Brighton. He's a very good player. And I don't know if it's Tudor's characteristics, because Tudor's a bit like Allegri. He loves the players big, physically strong. So I don't know. In fact, there are other profiles that are there with Juve, Kessi and Amrabat.
Okay.
If it's more the bill of what Tudor likes. So I will have to see. But I think obviously he wasn't the first choice. Conte was the one that Juve wanted. But I think Tudor did a good job to help Juve finish top 4. He's a Juve through and through. He knows the environment more or less, was with Pirlo as assistant coach, and I think what works against him is the fact that he never really established himself at a club.
He did excellently at Lazio.
But wherever he was, he always did well. But whenever he left, he always had some clashes with owners.
He came in, he had to fill in Sarri's boots at Lazio, and there are some great statistics not coming to mind at the moment, but he had a win percentage that was...
He had Verona as well.
Exactly.
And he helped players grow as well. So
he's good. It's interesting because it's like one of the first times you're seeing him have a full season at a top club.
Exactly,
because at Lazio he had a short time, at Juve he had a short time as well, and then it didn't exactly help my perspective of him that Juve almost tried to let him go after the Club World Cup, before the Club World
The
Cup,
Club World
saying
Cup.
after he's going to the Club World Cup, and then
exactly,
leave.
because he was a bit frustrated about it.
And then they
there was
went
a
back
little
on
bit
their
of
word
of a
and-
U-turn in the communication.
So I don't know. I think top 4 should be the
Top
goal.
four
I
is
don't
this,
think.
I mean,
you know, all right. The players are great. There's
It's
Cope
Milan,
Miners,
Juve, you win.
Yildiz.
You have to 100 million. They have 100 million, and the problem is selling players as well. Nico Gonzalez, Vlahovic, these are players with costly
Vlahovic
wages,
is
man.
a fucking, I
Costly
would
wages.
terminate the shit out of his contract, honestly. Because if you're not gonna sell him, if you're not gonna manage to sell him, you pay him 12 million. Might as well pay him double and literally get rid of him. I don't know. Let's jump a bit to the tactical landscape of next season. There were some interesting hires. Obviously, we spoke about Tudor, we spoke about Allegri, we spoke about Napoli keeping their hands on Conte. There have also been some interesting ones like Chivu to Inter, who doesn't have any Serie. Well, he has that,
But a very short
half a
one.
season
Short
with
one,
Parma.
short one.
Cuesta,
Cuesta.
29-year-old Arteta understudy with relegation battling Parma, and Pisacane, 39 years old, club legend for Cagliari, involved with their youth team earlier.
And with whom he won the Coppa Italia, no, last season.
I believe so.
Against
I believe
Milan.
so.
Was it against Milan?
I'm not too sure. I don't follow the youth
Yes,
teams that much. Let's start with Chivu. While we're on the topic of like the bigger clubs, and say, are Inter still like title challengers? Are they top 4 challengers?
Top 4 for sure. Title challengers, I wouldn't be surprised to see them challenging for that. But as I said, I feel that Inter, Napoli are 2 steps ahead of Inter. They're first of the champions. They kept more or less the core of the players of last season, added more multiple options to Conte. And Inter, first of all, they changed the coach. They have an aging squad. They did some interesting signings. Luis Enrique,
Like Sucic is a
Sucic
a
as
great
well.
signing.
So
they-
2 interesting players.
They missed out on some players that they should have signed. I think the Winter is a player that they could have used. He's the perfect
Now have the
profile
Lookman
for-
Saga as well.
the Lookman, they're
And they
wasting a lot of
need
time
a
on
player who can, I think, dribble on the spot, gives you a numerical advantage against lower block sides, for
someone
example,
that
as
can,
well.
exactly
No.
that. Someone that can, like a Conce South sort,
Ah,
someone
exactly,
a
they
bit more
need someone
direct,
and eventually clinical as well.
Lookman's perfect. So I don't know what formation they're gonna play next year. That's a big question.
I could take note of them during the Club World Cup, no, but now they had the friendlies as well. It looks more like a 3-4-1 rather than 3-5-2.
So Lookman's perfect.
Because it has 2 attacking midfielders behind the striker. It will be interesting to see where Barella will play, whether he will play
Striker, that's interesting with
with
Inter,
Lautaro. Listen,
Lautaro, Thuram.
we go back to the first arguments. 3-4-1. In possession, Thuram most probably we can drop near Lautaro, and then out of ball, Thuram is staying next to the other player to defend each other. It's the 3-4-1 looks like more rigid with fewer rotations rather than Zaga, a lot of rotations and the build-up midfield, etc. Barella would be interesting because he can play, in the 2 behind 1, he can play in the 4.
Sucic, Barella.
So it's an interesting take. Then you have obviously Çalhanoğlu also will play in the central in front of the defensive line as well. So, but they definitely need reinforcements. Defender, attacking midfielder maybe. Although now Çalhanoğlu stayed, but he's more of a deep playmaker.
Yeah, defenders. In my opinion, Acerbi is not getting any younger, although he keeps on showing us what he can do.
I mean, the interesting signing is of Boni, of Parma.
Boni is a good signing.
I think
man.
last year what they lacked was a backup for Thuram. Tall striker can hold on to the ball, play layoffs. He might not have a good goal scoring record.
No, but firstly he played with Parma, and secondly he's a bit of a Lukaku of sorts.
If
right?
he plays
Someone can
with
hold
a
the ball
good team
up.
that exactly, you see how he's utilized. But if he plays with a team that attacks a lot, I think then he will get used to goals as well. So, but it's an interesting choice, especially because he wasn't the first choice. La Fabregas and Vera apparently as well. So let's say he's choice number 3.
Mm-hmm.
He has little knowledge of first team football, although he was at Parma, but at Parma he was put in a situation to save the team. He played a completely different football.
He averaged like 25% ball possession in his
He focused on dead ball
games,
situations and that's it.
Exactly.
That's the right thing to do.
Man for man, like he went 3-5-2 for the first time against Inter, and he got
he
the
did some good
2-2
results
draw.
against the good teams, with
2-2
Juventus, he focused on relegation football.
Exactly.
And then people, a lot of pundits say because he has experience, because he was at Inter, that was in 2010, man. And that he was a player from transition from a player to coach is totally different. So we have to see. But I still put them top 4, obviously. Title contenders, maybe they are the same level of Juventus now as well. We'll have to see. It depends on how the transfer market.
Jake, as it stands,
well,
has them out of the top 4.
Ooh.
I don't have
Who
them
are the
out
top
of the
four
top
for
4
Jake?
at all. For Jake, I think Roma slipped in. So it was Napoli,
Roma.
Milan, Juve, Roma. I don't want to misquote him, but I think that's what he said.
Roma, okay.
Napoli, Milan, Juve, Roma.
That's a bold one, Milan or Roma.
I
Roma,
know,
especially.
I know, but Roma with I think Jake's rationale over here is managers. Gasperini, Allegri, Conte, and then Juve. When's the last time they finished out of the top 4? You know what I mean? Juve. I think when they don't get top 4, it's typically because they got docked points. Other than that, with Pirlo, with all these guys, that was always top 4 for Juve.
That's true.
But I don't think they're contenders because I think Napoli will be very dominant. But I think give Chivu 1-2 seasons with the players that team has. If they can sign one Stilla, if they can get Lookman.
Or a player like Lookman, that's already helpful up front.
Exactly. Because the choices they have up front. Thuram, Lautaro, Bonni, Francesco Pio Esposito now, who is
I think he's the one in form at the one in pre-season. He did well against Monza as well.
He's a sleeper pick. He's fucking huge and he's a beast, bro. He's like 6'3",
he is.
and he's got spirit. He's intelligent. 19 years old.
He might be an interesting player along the way for Inter.
What about Cuesta and Pisacane? These are interesting gambles. You typically look at clubs like Cagliari and clubs like Parma to go for managers like Davide Nicola, Ballardini, Mazzarri, and all these guys.
And then you end up with Cuesta and Pisacane.
A 29 and a 39.
That's a bold one. That's a bold one. Cuesta, honestly, it's unclear what type of coach he will be because there's no evidence of his football philosophy. Many are speculating that he will try to assume an Arsenal style on a smaller scale, but first of all, to do that, you need to have the right players.
But set pieces, I might be strong there.
I mean, for sure, he'll focus on set pieces because set pieces in the relegation football, it's the pinnacle of it, you know.
Pellegrino is really dominant.
And having seen how Parma did under Chivu, the set pieces, that's one thing to upgrade, not improve, upgrade, no, because it's already good. But to play like Arsenal, you need to have good players and the board that supports you, gives you time.
I believe, and I say this quasi every episode. I think Parma have such a good team, man. Even without Bonni and without Dennis, man. I think they have an excellent midfield. I think Bernabe is that Declan Rice that they need to play that system. And I think they have so many technically gifted players. Of course, it's big that they lost Bonni and that they lost Dennis, man.
And now they lost Leone at the back as well.
They're losing well, they officially, according to Fabrizio Romano, lost Leone as well, who played an important part for the last 17 games of the season. They managed to play a 3 at the back because of him being that last man, physical, aerially dominant and whatever. But Cuesta, I really wish I could give an educated answer to
I mean, they lost Mihail as well, Parma. So we have to see also the new signings coming in. They brought in a Danish midfielder that I don't know about. But he has a good CV, to be honest. They are bringing a Croatian forward as well because up front they had only just 2 players. And Juric is getting old. He's tall and he's physical, so it might fit the bill of relegation football, but I know how will it fit with Cuesta. And they are linked with Giovanni Reina.
Okay.
Giovanni Reina, that might be a great addition, but they're still, there's a discrepancy of a couple of million between the two teams. But
I can imagine, Giovanni Reina.
Giovanni
Okay,
Reina
he's,
I mean, he had promising start with
He's not at his
Dortmund,
peak,
then he
cool.
had an issue with the United States, his injury, and dropped a bit.
his father was a player.
His father,
Giovanni
Claudio Reina,
His father
one
was
of-
a beast.
one of the best players in the United States.
There you
He
go.
was with the 2010 squad, which arrived quarterfinals.
Wow.
He played with Manchester City,
Okay.
one of the first exported Americans from that squad. No, he was a really good player. He was a midfielder, very energetic, hard-working, very good. He's the one that had a clash with Giovanni Reina's coach at United States,
Okay.
who was a teammate with Reina, Claudio Reina, with the United States in 2002.
Wow.
It was a family issue. It's a drama. It's a huge drama. It created a lot of hassle in US soccer. But if these players come in and I am imagining they are targeted by Cuesta, I think we're in for a treat. Let's put it that way. I hope that he's given time.
Yeah.
Man, because if you bring a 29-year-old and
You have
and
to
he's
give him time.
if he doesn't even have time to eat the panettone, bro, what was this? A PR stunt.
Exactly.
But I mean, he comes with a good reputation
Uh-huh.
because he worked with Juve, Atletico Madrid, Arsenal. Have to see.
And then there's Pisacane,
And Pisacane,
who came up through the ranks at Cagliari with the U team.
He
Like,
won,
like
I think
we
they won
said.
the Coppa Italia last season with Milan. We might fact check this live as well.
With Cagliari against
Cagliari,
Milan.
with
Uh-huh.
Cagliari against Milan. And listen, Cagliari is an interesting situation because they brought in a new sporting director, Guido Angelozzi. He was with Frosinone. He has a good reputation in Italian football. And they did an important signing. They beat Parma for Sebastiano Esposito, which means they are, strengthened their attacking department.
Absolutely.
And
they kept Piccoli as well, which is huge.
they might lose the winger. He might go to Premier League. I forgot the name on the spot, to be fair.
Okay. The winger of Cagliari. I'll find it, don't worry.
But he's a good player, so if they miss out on him, it would be disappointing for them. But he was a key player last season. But what's interesting about Pisacane is he's working with as an assistant staff, a collaborator, and his technical staff is called Alberto Callego. I didn't know about him, but I was checking a bit their friendlies, and they interviewed him and spoke with him, and he said that they are trying to implement a modern and possession-based football.
Okay.
Rather than traditional football, rather than the relegation football. And I was like, okay, that's a bold one at Cagliari. But they're bringing in a young coach, first team experience for the first time, his debut, bringing in, having his collaborator with him, he might have worked with him already, and trying to implement this type of football at Cagliari, whose goal is to stay up, no? And he spoke. It was an interesting interview because he said they are focused on triangle combinations, mobility, space occupation, player responsibility, which means that most probably it means that players are not really spoon-fed about what they need to do with the ball.
Okay.
They need to take decisions on their own the field. And the formation is most probably a 4-3-3, which it fits the criteria of triangles. Was a lot of players next to each other forming a triangle, parts and combinations, and space occupation. And they played a couple of friendlies against the same team, a Spanish team, Racing Santander, and they build up a lot from the back, played vertically. Think there needs to be some improvement in the position and the timing, being sharp to adjust to this formation. But if given time and patience, which is not really...
You filled me with a bit of confidence about this guy.
I think it's interesting. Maybe we can put Cagliari as a team to watch for next year. I don't know. I mean...
Interesting.
I mean, Sardinia deserves a team not playing, not just surviving Serie A, but, being competitive. It's been a while since we see Cagliari giving a hard time to the
Uh-huh.
other clubs, to be honest. When they used to play at Santeli, they had, a proper stadium, you know.
The Unipol Domus is fun to be at as well. It's live. It's the supporters that make it. To be
It's
fair.
true.
They've
It's
got
true.
excellent
I like.
supporters.
It's a little bit like their ultras. It feels like a bit like playing against Crystal Palace in England. And I know we have some Crystal Palace fans in the group, So this was a note to them as
shout
well.
out to Andy.
But when you see their support, and I think it's the colours as well, that makes me think about Crystal Palace, but. They make
Possibly.
it tough, but it's not a fortress, like it used to be. I used to be afraid when Juventus used to play at Cagliari, like Cagliari away. Recently hasn't been that way. I think the quality dropped a bit as well.
Perhaps.
But we have to see.
My fond memories of Cagliari are when they had João Pedro up front. I was a huge fan of his.
Mine were David Suarez up front.
A bit older than me.
That was 2005.
There you go.
The
I was
David Suarez.
2005. I was 7 years old, so I wouldn't have too many memories of.
David
of
Suarez,
football.
Gianfranco Zola, Langella.
I wish.
There was a short player called Esposito. Man, that was a team.
I wish. Which teams should we look out for tactically in Serie A next season?
I think a distinct team is Fiorentina.
Pioli.
Most likely because of Pioli, and also they brought in Edin Dzeko as well. We'll come back to it. I think he's 39 years young, not old, 39 years young. And what makes Fiorentina interesting is because they are at the back of 2 finals in the Conference League. They almost made another one last season. It would have been a hat-trick of finals. And they had Ken, who was an outstanding player last season for Fiorentina.
Magnificent.
Especially because, he had some turmoil in his career. Was good at Juventus, but never really focused on him, Juventus. And but even when he went in other clubs, although at PSG he did well, I remember. So seeing him, perform over flourish, scoring multiple goals, hitting double figures, becoming an important figure, maybe finally he's reaching the heights that we expected from him. Usually Pioli does have a good scoring record with his team, so I think if Ken proves that he's not a one-season wonder, I think you're in for a treat for Fiorentina as well. When they brought in Dzeko, I thought they might bring him as a backup, but bringing Dzeko from Turkey, from a comfortable contract back to Italy, that means that maybe he was promised to playing time. And from what I'm seeing in the friendlies, actually they're playing together, which means they need another player, a backup. And I read that they are looking at a player called Christian Spendi, I think.
Oh, Spendi. Spendi from Serie B.
Cesena.
From Cesena. I thought he was at Spezia.
Cesena.
From Cesena.
And Albania under 21. So that might be an interesting one, because it adds more depth, but obviously he's a untapped player in Serie A, so we have to see how he performs as well and how much time he's given. And I think likely formations be 3-4-1-2, maybe 3-4-2-1, but if they play together, Ken and Dzeko stick to the 2, 3-5-2. Obviously they need a good squad because they have the Conference League. Maybe from March onwards, especially when it becomes there's a lot at stake because you play against better teams, And an interesting name is Mattia Viti as well. He's back
from Empoli.
He might not be a starter, but he might be the player that eventually through disease explodes, and maybe he becomes the new Leone. I don't know. But he's an interesting player. I think Fiorentina is an interesting team, because I do like Pioli's teams. He recently did well as well, and he won the title as well with Milan. So, and it will be interesting to see how Fiorentina now, whether they make. And I think that will make them interesting, whether they now stick to their level, competing for a place in Europe, maybe Champions League, but doing well in Conference League, or maybe they make another step in their level and I don't know, maybe not be an outsider for a top 4, but establish themselves there. And the thing with how the teams are on paper at the moment, they might have a good chance to be fair. They weren't really far last season. Then things went a little bit south.
Towards the end of the season,
They were going to sack Palladino. He stayed. No, there wasn't really. That's what happens in Italian football.
Yeah.
The lack of stability, basically.
yeah. But I think it's they will be a very interesting team to watch next season. Firstly, I don't really know what to expect because Pioli has struggled before Milan.
That's true.
And he struggled with Milan as well. But when you look at how much Milan struggled without Pioli,
Makes you
Milan
think twice about it.
stabilized. Milan only stabilized with Pioli.
Yeah, the balanced team as well.
Before Pioli, there was Gianpaolo, and before Gianpaolo, there was Gattuso, who started to make things better at Milan. But Milan got top 4 with Pioli. Milan won the Champions League with Pioli. Pioli left. Milan came 8th. So that's how good Pioli is. That's his testament. But then before that, Inter struggled with Inter. Lazio, Fiorentina. Obviously, there's a return to Fiorentina. So it wasn't all
good. I think winning the Serie A helped his reputation as well.
Absolutely.
But Milan did do well under him as well.
Very well.
Maybe he adjusted himself as a coach as well. So that makes a good manager.
Exactly.
Learning from the mistakes in the past and then adapt.
That's it. And tactically quite fluid as well. He played mainly 4-3-3, but then he also went a 3 at the back when Milan were struggling.
And he's expected to play the 3 at the back at least for now with Fiorentina as well. So.
No, interesting. I agree with you, and really hard not to say the team that I'm going to mention next. What makes Como's approach so different to that of other Serie A clubs?
Having hollow doctors in the stands, I guess.
What's his name? Adrian Brody. And Terry Crews at the game.
Anyone that comes up to mind was there. And I think that's already make a difference and convincing a player to come to Como. They're building on the brand.
Their brand is the strongest in the league. Hands down.
Clubs like Como, Venezia and Pisa, who obviously they are. If you think about Como, like go Venezia, Pisa,
Leaning Tower,
which is really near close proximity to the stadium. It's easy marketing, it's easy branding, But speaking about the football part, because I'm not really a marketing person, I wanted to start actually to mention a particular statistic, and then I tell you why, because it was interesting. Because last season, compared to the top leagues, Serie A, there was a list produced by Who Scored, I think, top 25 teams from the main 5 leagues across Europe, and there were just 2 clubs who had a high statistic of dribbling, successful dribblings. Milan and Juventus. I think Milan were 8, Juve were 25th actually. I mean, probably it's all Conceição, I imagine. And Leao and Conceição.
Exactly.
But Milan had Pulisic as well, maybe, so that makes it
Reinders as well.
Theo Hernandez maybe as well. So I think that helped a lot. And then there was a lot of English teams and French teams. Would you expect that? French teams with all the technical players that there are there. And then there was another one produced by Huddle Statsbomb. These create some interesting statistics. And from all the top 5 from successful dribblings per night in the Serie A was last. Like average of 6.13 per team. It was a very low statistic. So we would say, okay, if dribbling is not successful in Italy, it means that maybe we need to change the way we play. We play long balls with dribbling. We're playing against good teams who can who deny our players to break through in the final third. What Como did focus on technical and dribblers. this summer they just went all in for dribblers, except Morata.
Exactly.
But Morata is an interesting signing for them, and they brought in 4 or 5 players, man. So they brought in one I knew about him, Martin Baturina.
I love Baturina.
With Dynamo Zagreb. And I made sure to write a statistics about each of them because he's mostly a creative midfielder. But last season in the Champions League with Dynamo Zagreb, despite not qualifying to the next round because they were eliminated in the group stage, he was he was in the top players who had over 20 dribblings.
Oh wow!
And ahead of him there were just Bellingham, Musiala, Vitinha, players that play in that role and had more dribbles than him, and that's really huge. It shows how authoritative he is in the midfield, how creative he is, and with his mentality, And then they brought in Jesus Rodriguez, who comes from a school of Andalusian wingers, Reyes, Jesus Navas, Joaquin as well.
Insane.
These classic players. And he used to play as an inverted winger, so the player that tucks in to shoot or dribble. And he was one of the players under 23 that last season he had it was per 1,000 minutes, I think, I don't know, something like that, but he had the most successful dribblings, and ahead of him there was Yamal and Nico Williams, so these monsters.
Insane, man.
And he was just right behind them. They brought in Adai as well. I think he was at AZ Alkmaar. He didn't play a lot last season, but had a very good statistic because I think last season he played just a little over 100 minutes, and he completed 19 dribbles from the 30 that he had. It's a good stat. Obviously, it's relevant to Dutch football.
300 minutes.
Wow, that's a good one.
Good amount of dribbles.
But he was playing
with
the youth team, and then he ended up with the first team. Nicolas Kuhn, for me, is a gem. Nicolas Kuhn, man, at Celtic, they had O'Reilly, and then they brought Kuhn. Man, the way Kuhn plays, the ball is glued to his feet. He's very good. Man.
Jesus.
He's amazing. He's amazing to watch. He can play winger and playmaker. He did some good matches in the Champions League last season, especially against Bayern Munich, for example, when they got eliminated in the final minute of the match. I think it was the round of 16 or the round before. And what's interesting is all these signs are under 25 years old.
Yep.
And these are players that can dribble in tight spaces. So against low block teams, they can dribble. If you give them time and space, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And last season, Como were 5th in Serie A for dribbling. So I can't imagine this season where they'll end up. I think they can easily end up first. It's an interesting approach because they do have a good financial budget, but they didn't go for players, that are mainstream. They went players through their scouting. They went to players that have good statistics in their own leagues and that fits their idea of football. But it's still bold, because for me, you are saying that through these players, we are focusing on qualifying to Europe for sure. So
what's your prediction for Como? Because you said first
Europa League.
and
Europa League, Europa League Conference League.
Last season 10th, right? They
with that team,
10th.
with the team they had. Now bringing these players,
Mm-hmm.
it can either go bust, but I don't.
But I doubt it.
But I doubt that Como will go bust because what they're doing is specific players through scouting, through their database they have. Fabregas would have seen these players a million times, so they know what they are bringing, and if they are successful in their idea of more dribbling, I think they can easily end up, let's say, not top 4 Europa League, just a step away from the Champions League.
Okay.
Well, I mean, although I don't feel that in Italy there are those big teams, like England, versus maybe you have Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool that have two superstars in Italy. Man, I think if you have a good organized team like them, could play once a week. Why not?
They might shock some people. I know that according to our plan, we have 6 more discussion points to go, but we've hit the 2-hour mark, which means that this is going to be an absolute bitch to export. So I've just selected one final talking point for us. And I think you'll agree that this is potentially the most interesting one. yes, what do you think about this to end the episode? Do you think the obsession with tactics in Italy is a main contributor to the lack of trust in youth players?
Yes, because I believe that tactics can become a problem when overemphasized at the expense of technical skills. Tactics are important, obviously, but the most important thing is technical ability, and that's why I love Allegri. In every press conference, in every interview, he always said, dobbiamo fare la tecnica giusta, la tecnica giusta. But I used to say, but why is saying that? Because if you have players who can control the ball perfectly first touch, giving the right body angle, if the first touch is a little the switch of play, if you have those players, you can do magic. If you have players who are struggling technically, you're already at a disadvantage, So you have to maybe rely more on the tactical part. Obviously, how do you teach players technical abilities from grassroots football?
Yeah.
From grassroots football. I think that's one of the problems of Italy. But I think at the moment they like a striker, they like a number 10, they like a winger. I think about maybe Orsolini is the Italian winger that can dribble players on the spot at the moment. And what's happening? Because nowadays when a player, but even when I used to play when I was younger, when a player dribbles a player, we say, he's too ambitious, he doesn't pass his teammates. No, what he's doing is showing his creativity. He's dribbling a player. So if he dribbles, let him dribble. Let him learn where's the limit. If he can beat one or two players, that's good, gives you advantage. Then he'll see himself that he cannot beat everyone and he needs to pass. And then when he passes, he goes into a different space. Nowadays, if students do this dribble a player, no, don't dribble. Pass to the player.
And we're seeing this.
And they become robots.
We're seeing this from a youth level. These guys that want to become the next big mister and they want to be managers in their career, they start off training 10-year-olds and they're already trying to get them to play football in a certain
under 10 tournament winners,
teaching them how to press and do XYZ, which is sure it's important.
So, for example, in youth football, what makes a good manager? Not the one that wins the under 10 Christmas tournament.
No.
Who gives a shit about the tournament?
No.
I will see the team that finished last, and I will say, okay, they lost 10-0 every game, but man, the defender did things well. And I speak to the coach and he tells me, I taught him that and that. You're a good coach.
It's
maybe from the team that won the tournament, I wouldn't pick a player. But the team that came last time, I'd pick a defender.
Exactly.
Even though he conceded 10 each game. But he did well. He was marking the players and the goals weren't his fault.
Exactly.
So what makes a good manager in football is the one that maximizes the potential of the players, and teach them the game, but allow us to be creative. And I spoke to Ciccio Graziani a few weeks ago. He was in Malta, the 1982 World Cup winning coach, and he gave me a shocking statistic actually, because he said that in the Primavera and the Under-19 league in Italy, most clubs have 4 or 5 foreign players, so there's already a problem on Italian players, and then in this area there are almost 70% foreigners, so one that denies the Italian players the chance. But then if you look at these almost 70 players foreigners, they're not even the ones that were playing in the youth system. They are brought from other leagues ready. So where do these young ones end up, that are taking place of the Italian players? Maybe they are good where they are playing, no. So that's why maybe we are seeing the Juve next gen.
All plus Valenza.
Juve did a good job with the next gen when the players came from there. Now we have to see Atalanta and Inter. And Atalanta is their second or third year Inter this season. I mean, I did a bit of a disaster with the Milan photo.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean,
and you say Juve did well as well, but obviously there was a bit of a mismanagement as well over there, right? With the likes of Dean Howson.
Did well, but they did well of giving time to these players.
Fair.
Time and the platform where to show their talents.
Very true.
When the players came up from there, they also won the Coppa Italia of the Serie C. But then obviously that's the administration stuff,
Exactly.
But then Milan, messed it up completely, going to Serie D. Now Serie D might be a good. I mean, Serie D it's totally different. Because Serie D it's physical, it's like putting a team of kids there.
Yeah.
But having no pressure, especially because they cannot get relegated as well. Maybe it helps them to get more playing time. But we're speaking about Serie D, man. Not about Serie B. It's
Uh-huh.
different. So I think, yes, now we are focused on the tactics. We are focused on winning rather than tactics, on winning now. But even at youth level, so
I think at that age when you should learn about teamwork and you should learn how to build up your technical ability. I think
technical ability is the first thing. You control the ball, shoot the ball, cross the ball.
Exactly. I spoke to a friend of mine who was a phenomenal footballer. Had trials all around Europe that excruciate twice at a young age. Disaster. Ian Falzon. And he always told me that he had trials at Vitesse, bro. Trials at Spurs, I believe Juve as well. And he always said what they look for first is the physicality, how big, how fast, etc., etc. Their job from then on is to teach you the technique, and that is what they keep on focusing on, and they keep on honing, and they keep on building. They shift the focus from, like we spoke about Pavlovic.
Exactly.
Pavlovic has that part. He's 6'3", he's fast, he's strong, he's good in the
Those
air.
are things you cannot teach.
Exactly.
You can teach him how to use his physique, but if he's tall, that's already granted.
Exactly. It's how Conte chooses his wing backs. It's just give me someone that can run for 90 minutes, sprint up and down, and I'll teach them the rest. Brother, we're going to need to end it over here. This calls for another episode. We need to do another episode because there are some player-related questions that I really want to discuss with you. But
sequel is not always work, but we can make it a trilogy, you know.
Exactly.
Because the third season is always better than the second one.
Exactly. There were a few sequels I enjoyed. I think was it
Game of Thrones was good.
I never watched Game
The
of Thrones.
6th and 7th messed it up. People, please tell me whether I'm right or wrong.
Brother, it was a pleasure.
Pleasure's
Thank
all
you
mine.
so much. And tune in, guys, as always, to Tactics Imperium. We'll start things off in 2 weeks now. In 2 weeks, Serie A starts. Jake and I will be back next week, probably with our predictions episode. And from then on, we'll continue our weekly episodes. And Gianluca will continue with his Tactics Imperium episode. Ciao, ciao, and we'll catch you all next week.
If you like Serie A or have ever liked it in the past, it's a good opportunity for you to listen once a week and you'll get filled in.
In the football weekend, that's like the main dish. But then a few days later, you drop your episode and that's like the dessert. And the dessert is just perfect.
It's good, the cake.
It makes it feel like we're all sitting in a room together, just BSing with each other.
The atmosphere is fantastic.
I promise nobody will ask you to send boob pics.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
I love how you go into so much detail and show so much passion towards each and every team. Literally, no team is left undiscussed.
When I listen to you, it's like I'm talking to you in a pub. It's like I'm chatting to a friend and you're chatting to me.